So this is the HoverAir X1 Promax, and like myself you might assume that this can't possibly be anywhere near as good as a certain brand of drones which we don't need to mention. Well, have a look at the following footage I've put together, which is 100% just this drone. All of the footage is made with the Promax and it's 100% just me on my own. So it's solo style, lonely old me, filming with a drone, and then afterwards I'm going to tell you all about the features this drone can offer, and I'm going to do it in a sort of behind the scenes kind of way referring to this footage. Hope you enjoy it. If you enjoyed that video, I'm going to leave a link in the description below to the non-condensed full version, or I'm going to leave a link up here somewhere. But let's have a little delve into the details of this drone. It's sub 250 grams, which means that you can fly it pretty much anywhere in most countries. It's got a 1/2 inch 48 megapixel sensor, and it can record at up to a whopping 8K resolution, which is way more than pretty much any other drone in this price range and class. It's fully enclosed or protected, which means that it's great for flying around people. It's very difficult to injure yourself in these props because they're completely encased. And it uses a visual-based positioning system. No GPS on this drone, which at first made me think, oh god, how's that going to work? But actually it works extremely well. It can do things like return to home and everything you'd kind of expect from this kind of drone. And what's more, the nice thing about not having or not relying on GPS is that as soon as you unfold it and power it on, it's ready to go. There's no GPS lock to acquire, and it's not going to do anything funky or weird because it doesn't have GPS or suddenly acquires it. So that's actually an advantage if you want. It's not perfect for everything, I'll talk about that later, but for tracking and the kind of things I'm going to talk about in this video, it's absolutely fantastic. In addition to the visual positioning, it's also got obstacle detection sensors at the back, which allows it to fly backwards, avoid obstacles, and that's particularly useful during functions like the dolly track function, which I'll talk about later. It's got a speaker built in, which means that the drone can communicate with you on what flight mode you're in and other useful information. And when powered down, the gimbal actually folds up, which means that there's no need for a gimbal protector. A nice little feature. I'd love other drones to have this as well. When you fold this drone up, it's extremely compact. I mean, look at this. That's barely bigger than a smartphone, and I'm wearing jeans right now. You could pretty much just, there you go, I can actually fit them in my jeans pockets like that, which is pretty incredible. No other drone that I've flown which does these kind of things can do that or can fit in pockets as easily as this does. So on top of the drone you have a display which tells you useful information such as your battery level and whether you've got Omni Terrain enabled, which is very important because if you're flying over cliffs or over water, you really want to make sure that's turned on, and I'll talk about that a bit later. But in addition to that, it also allows you to cycle through a massive plethora of automated flight modes using 2 directional buttons. And it's those flight modes which really make this so special, because really the drone does all the work for you. You don't really need any skill as a drone pilot to fly this thing. This does everything for you. You just tell it how you want it to fly, what kind of maneuver you want it to perform, press a button, take off from the palm of your hand, and it does all the work for you and makes you look awesome. So let's have a little chat about the various flight modes that this drone offers. Okay, so the first mode, hover, very basic, very simple, but also very underrated, because all the drone's going to do is take off, hover in place, and it can track you as a subject if you want. You can turn that on or off, and that's all there is to it. But it's very underrated because sometimes that's exactly what you want from a drone and can create some really cool shots, and I've used that a lot in that video I showed you earlier. So to show you how easily you can deploy that, you just press that button on top.
Continue. Hover.
Drone takes off, red light turns on to tell you it's recording. It's now going to track me if I move around. And that's all there is to it. To land it, just hold your hand under it, red light turns off, stops recording, lands into the palm of your hand, and you're done. So very versatile, even though it's very basic. Okay, so the next mode we're going to talk about is follow, which is probably the most used mode on these kind of drones. Basically the drone's just going to follow you from behind, and you can change what sort of height or distance from yourself you want the drone to follow you. Now, in terms of the performance in that mode, this drone is exceptionally good. It's extremely good in tight environments, around woodlands, tracks, even indoors. I mean, it does have an indoor follow specific mode as well, but I didn't really need that because it works pretty well even using the standard follow mode. But indoor follow is kind of optimized for indoor environments. But this drone follows extremely well, pretty much as good, if not better than anything else I've ever tried. Okay, the next mode I'm going to talk about is dolly track, and in this mode the drone basically flies in front of me, facing back at me, and that's particularly useful for things like vlogging where you want to create a dialogue with the camera. So right now I'm actually filming with the Promax in 8K, and that allows me to crop in on the footage a little bit and create more like a 35mm equivalent, which is I think a bit better for this kind of footage. As with the other modes, you can adjust your height and distance for this kind of mode. So I can have it further away than this, or I can have it filming from below or above. And what's really nice is you can also record your audio using your mobile phone straight onto the footage, and the software will actually apply a really nice amount of noise cancellation to get rid of that prop noise. So right now I'm talking via the mobile phone and sort of demonstrating what that amount of noise cancellation looks like. I've also been really pleasantly surprised that running up or downhill in this mode, the drone adapts to the terrain really nicely. So if you're going up a slope, it will actually adapt itself and not crash into the terrain, which is really good. So the X1 and X1 Promax do have a few flight modes which you won't find with many other competitor drones. And one of those is sidetrack. So sidetrack, basically the drone films you side on as you're running, cycling, running against an amazing backdrop, or to show off how fast you're going. So I really did enjoy using that one as well. It's another nice dynamic sort of viewpoint to add to your arsenal. And as with the other modes, you can adjust your height and distance from the subject as well. For certain higher risk flight modes, including sidetrack, you do need to go through a brief tutorial to unlock that in the app. So that basically ensures that you know how to not crash into something or to get the drone back to yourself. But yeah, that kind of works quite well, and it's quite rewarding to kind of unlock new features as you go along. Then we've got the classic orbit, which you can again adjust the height and distance for. And it's a bit of a shame that you can't adjust the speed of this one yet, because HoverAir are very good at pumping out new updates, and maybe they'll add that one in a future update. But for now, what you can actually do is, if the orbit is too fast, you can record at 60 frames per second or even 120 frames per second, and then slow that down for added epicness to your orbit. Orbits are great for showing off your surroundings and revealing a surrounding, so I did enjoy using that for that purpose in a few places in my video. Another nice feature that I really like about orbits on this drone is that you can limit the amount of that orbit. So you can just do 90 degrees or 180 degrees. And that's really, really useful if you're doing indoor orbits around obstacles, around gear, if you're doing it in a gym where you've got equipment around you and you know that you've only got enough space for half an orbit. You can set it to do 180 degrees and then ensure that you're not going to crash into something. So really nice feature to have that in the orbit function in this drone. Okay, that brings me on to one of my most favorite, but probably also most underrated functions of this drone, and that's zoom out. So in zoom out, the camera basically just flies out and back towards you, and that's all there is to it. So it's kind of a little bit like a dolly type camera movement, but even though it's simple, it's extremely effective. You can have it going up and down in different distances as well. My top tip is you can make it even more effective by flying past some objects, so have layers in your path, so maybe some trees you're flying past or some bits of gym equipment, and it just looks more interesting and more immersive as well. But yeah, I massively enjoyed using the zoom out functions in this drone. Then we have another one of those functions which you won't find on many other drones, and that's dolly zoom. So dolly zoom, quite famous through films like Jaws, where basically the camera moves away from the subject but zooms in at the same time, or vice versa. If you've tried to do those manually with other drones before, they can be a bit tricky to get that timing right. The nice thing with the Promax is you can just do it automatically, and it does work very, very well. Again, as with the zoom out function, I would recommend maybe having some layers in your foreground or background, and consider what kind of objects you've got in your perspective, as opposed to just having one layer which doesn't look that good. Then we have the bird's eye function. The drone basically flies up. You can have the camera pointing down or straight ahead if you want to. Probably makes more sense to have it facing down, but there will be scenarios where the camera facing forward might be nice for like a reveal type shot. And you can then tell it how long you want it to stay at a predefined height. And what's really nice is you can also have the drone spinning or corkscrewing on the way up and down as well. Again, just to add a bit more dynamic to your shots and make things more interesting. So the bird's eye shots are really nice, especially for people who don't see drone shots very often. They will be quite impressed with a shot where you're looking straight down at something, because it's not something you see that often even these days. And that brings me on to the 360 function, which has only recently been added via a firmware update. The nice thing with the HoverAir drones is you do get firmware updates pretty much every 2 to 4 weeks. Those might have bug fixes, but also new features added, and that's really nice. I mean, I love that about like a new drone. You used to get it with certain other drones back in the early days, where you'd get firmware updates constantly and that excitement of a new feature being added. That's not so much the case anymore nowadays with those drones, because they're considered finished articles and ripe. This one, 00 Robotics or HoverAir, are really tenacious about making their drones better, and that shows in their firmware updates. So the 360 function, basically the drone just rotates on its own axis, and that's all there is to it. You can set the speed it does or how many rotations it does, but it's another nice dynamic sort of shot to add to your arsenal. So just to round up some of the other functions which I'm not really covering much in this video, but which are nice, are the cycling and skiing modes. So those are optimized for those kind of activities. And then you've got an indoor mode as well, which basically means the drone is optimized for flying closely around obstacles indoors. I personally found that when I did my indoor shots, I didn't really need to use that, because it did function really well even without it. But it's nice to have that option if you need it. The final mode I'm going to talk about is manual mode, which is the traditional way to fly drones. You can either fly it in that mode using a virtual controller on the app, or you can use the beacon combined with 2 joystick attachments to create more of an ergonomically standard sort of type controller with actual sticks. The benefit of using that controller is you do get a bit more range, and using manual mode is a great way to kind of fly the drone into position and almost use it as a way to steer it into position to create a wide shot of a scenery, of something you might be running through or something you're trying to capture. In addition, you can also use manual mode to create more traditional creative shots which require more advanced stick commands. There were actually a few instances in the video that I put together where I just held my thumb on the controller on the app while I'm running to have the drone flying forwards in a continuous fashion while I'm running under it, or flying away from me while I'm running under it, just to create that dynamic shot that I wanted, even though an automatic version of it wasn't available. But you can still get it done by using manual mode in that kind of fashion. So let's talk about a feature which makes these drones so special and so powerful. It's not so much the drones themselves, but it's the app and the app control that you get with them. The app for these drones is absolutely phenomenal and better than anything else in the market that I've seen so far. At the time of recording this video, a lot of other manufacturers don't give you the ability to adjust your full camera settings. With these drones, you do, so you can get full ability to adjust absolutely everything, including your flight modes, your camera settings, your resolution, your frame rate, but also your shutter speed and your ISO and your white balance. It can all be done from the app, which basically means that a lot of the time for these kind of drones, which are AI tracking drones, so they're really made to fit in your pocket, be compact, those drones should be compact and should work great in a compact fashion. And the fact that the app allows you to fully control them and fully control all the parameters that you'd ever need means that you'd very rarely actually go for a controller. You've got everything you need in this. So an example of where I massively benefited from full app control over my camera settings was in those indoor gym shots where the light was low in certain areas. And in those sort of scenarios with small sensors like this drone, I quite like to use a shutter speed of 1/30 seconds at 30 frames per second. That's not ideal because people tend to like to use the 180 rule, but I personally find that the benefits of keeping that shutter speed low and the ISO low and the lower noise that you get with it outweighs the disadvantages. I was also able to fix my ISO to 800, and that created a look which was generally fairly noise free and looked quite good. When you rely on automatic camera settings, what the drone thinks is the best setting isn't always the best in reality. So the fact that you can manually tell the drone exactly how you want it to film is a massive benefit, and you've got it all on the app in the palm of your hand. So I think that's a good moment to talk about the camera on this drone. The camera is a 1/2-inch sensor. It's 48 megapixels. You can use it to record up to 8K, and it's on a 2-axis stabilized gimbal. Now, even though it's only a 1/2-inch sensor, which is actually quite a decent size and more than we had only a few years ago on these kind of drones, It's worth remembering that other drones such as the DJI Neo, which also has a 1/2-inch sensor, doesn't have roll stabilization, and it does mean that that footage is going to crop in digitally to compensate for roll movement. So the quality you'll get out of this drone will be better in that sense than drones like the Neo, which don't have roll compensation mechanically. The camera has a field of view of 16mm, which is quite wide and probably more than people are used to. But that's not a bad thing, because at that wide angle, when you film yourself doing things like downhill cycling or skiing, the sense of speed you're going to get portrayed by that is going to be faster than at a narrower field of view. So it's not a bad thing. If you don't like that, what you can do is you can use the 2x magnification function. So because it's an 8K sensor, or more than an 8K sensor, you can crop in on that footage without sacrificing resolution and give you something like a 30 to 35mm equivalent. Or you can do what I did, which is record at 8K and then crop in afterwards. You could even take it further at the expense of a bit of resolution and go up to about 50mm or beyond. The filming modes you've got, in addition to normal mode, are HLG to generate HDR footage. You can record in slow-mo at a whopping 120 frames per second 4K, which is phenomenal, and again great for creating some dramatic, action-y kind of shot, speed ramps, all the kind of stuff you're going to want to be doing. You can do those at 4K. And then you've got the Hover Scene mode, which is a sort of prefab cinematic mode to kind of add a bit of a stylish sort of look to your footage out of the box, which is also quite nice. You have the ability to set your exposure monitoring to either portrait or standard. That basically means that if you're doing a landscape, you'd have it on standard, or if you're trying to film yourself and you want to prioritize exposing your face, then you'd have it on portrait, which might blow out the background a little bit, but if you're prioritizing filming yourself, then that might be your preference. But it's nice to have that option to switch between the two of those. One of my tips is when filming indoors in low lit environments with some sources of light coming through windows, such as in the gym, I found the portrait mode actually worked better, but maybe use a slightly reduced exposure compensation, maybe -0.3. So can the Promax fly over cliffs and over water? Yes, it can. The nice thing is with this drone, you get notified of when it's safe to do so with Omni Terrain. So on the display, you have something called Omni Terrain, or a little symbol which tells you when it's safe to fly over water or over cliffs based on its sort of determination of what the environment looks like, what the lighting's like, and so on. So I do like the fact that there's that level of communication between the drone and yourself to tell you when it's safe to do those things, because drones are still bits of technology which have limitations, and it's all about that communication between, does it have the information, whether it's satellites for other drones or visual reference points, to make it safe to do certain maneuvers. The fact that this drone actually tells you audibly as well as visually on the display, brilliant. Okay, let's have a chat about some of the accessories you can get for the X1 Promax. The first one I want to talk about, I can't even begin to explain how much I love this accessory, and it's the power case. So this has actually been designed for skiing runs, so you basically do your skiing run, get to the bottom, put your drone in it. It'll then charge it, because this is also a power bank. It'll charge the drone automatically, and then when you get to the top, you're ready to go again. But I love it because it's somewhere that I always keep the drone, keeps it safe, keeps it charged. I just got to make sure that this is charged, and that'll charge the drone up to 2 times, I think, 2.5 times. Brilliant. Open it up, take your drone, goes in, and it's going to charge it and ready to go for the next time you fly it. Every drone should have one of these. These are so handy. The power case comes as part of the ski combo version of this drone, which is designed for skiers in mind, and quite useful for that. You also get a set of these thermal batteries, which are designed for cold climates. Quite nice to have batteries which work at low temperatures, so you get 2 of those with it as well. You also get a power hub, which is this little guy, that allows you to charge 2 of these. Everything's USB-C chargeable. There's also a set of specific ND filters for this drone. ND filters allow you to keep your shutter speed low, and that allows you to get more motion blur and convey more of a sense of speed and realism to your footage. So these ones come in ND 8, 16, 32 and 64, and they basically slip onto the front of the camera, so they're quite easy to fit. Not the easiest, but simple enough, work very well. With these ones you do need to set, or you have the option to set in the app for the drone to know that you've got an ND filter fitted to optimize for that filter, so that's quite nice. It's a bit faffy because it's easy to forget that you've got that set on an ND filter setting, but if that achieves you better results, which I've still got to verify, then that's not a bad thing. Okay, that brings me on to the last set of accessories I'm going to talk about, and that's the beacon and joysticks, which come in this beautiful little hard case. Inside that you've got 2 joysticks and the beacon if you buy these together. The beacon itself is basically a device which improves your connection from you to the drone, gives you more range, but also allows you to flip through various flight modes. It's got a little display on it which shows you what the camera's seeing, so you can choose your various flight modes. You can set it to record. You can do your basic functions as you can do with the app, although I don't think it allows you to do everything, but pretty much most things. Very compact. You can clip this on your handlebars, see what the drone's doing anytime. Probably very useful if you're doing cycling type activities. You then have the 2 joystick sides. The first one, when you attach it, it basically turns this into a type of Wii controller. Use a combination of wrist movements and joystick controls to control the drone. It's a bit unusual for people who are used to flying drones, so I'm not sure how much I'm going to use it, but it's a nice gimmick and it's probably good fun for kids to play with and just for a bit of a laugh. But yeah, so that allows you to fly like this. Okay, so just to demonstrate how the whole thing works, so you have a little button at the back. You press that, moving forwards and backwards using your wrist makes it fly forwards and backwards, and then rolling left and right, and then you can use the control stick to move up, down, and yawing left and right as well. So the control stick is basically the left controller on a standard mode 2 controller that you might be used to, and the motion controls are essentially your right stick on a mode 2 controller. But yeah, it works. A bit gimmicky, but it's good fun. The other joystick controller, which clips onto the other side like this. These things flip around like that, and then you can attach your phone using these spring-loaded clips at the bottom, and you've got yourself a proper drone controller. That gives you more range and more of a precise feel or connection with the drone. Truth is, you probably won't need this because the app control is so damn good, you'll never find yourself really needing a controller like this. But for cases where you want to fly a little bit further, have a bit more range, or just a better feel for the drone, then this is nice to have. That brings me on to the last section of this video, which is what are the key strengths of this drone. And as mentioned earlier, one of the biggest advantages of this drone, the HoverAir X1 Promax, and a lot of the other drones that HoverAir do, is the app control, which is just phenomenal and extremely efficient. It basically means that for a small drone like this, which is designed for compactness, I mean, these drones, they're meant to be carried in your backpack, in your pocket, in the back of your jersey if you're cycling. They're supposed to be small and almost unnoticeable. Well, these drones, you won't need a big clumsy controller to control this and get the full benefit of what they can offer. You can do everything you need with a smartphone, apart from maybe having a bit of limited range where you might then want to use the beacon or some other accessories. Other than that, smartphone control gives you everything you need to do with this drone, and that's a massive advantage for this, as well as the fact that it's compact, which then also goes hand in hand with the fact that smartphone control gives you the full benefits of it. The video quality coming out of this drone is second to none. It's right up there in terms of quality, and even people who've been spoiled by the best of the best kind of drones won't be begrudged by what kind of video quality you get out of this drone. So that's also a massive benefit and strength for this one. And the build quality, this can take impacts. I've probably crashed this about 30, 40, 50 times. Trees, walls, indoors, outdoors. It's sustained no damage at all, so it's very well built and it can take impacts very, very well as well. Then you have the huge number of flight modes that this drone offers, each one with a number of parameters that you can change. So there are hundreds and hundreds of ways you can record with this drone and keep things interesting. We have a saying in the UK, you can be a jack of all trades but a master of none, which basically means that quite often you can do a bit of everything, but that might not mean that you're good at anything particularly. Well, this is not a jack of all trades. This drone is made for tracking you, filming you while you do activities. That's really what it's made for. It's great for filming you as you're cycling, running, skiing, all those activities, and it does it extremely well, and it offers you a lot of different tools to make those shots interesting. It's also very good for vlogging because you've got the ability to record sound straight onto your footage, cancel out noise from propellers. It works very well for those, and again it's got a plethora of different flight modes which keep that kind of footage interesting as well. So really, who's this drone for? Well, this drone is for people who want to film themselves doing what they love. Action type sports, cycling, running, all those kind of things. If that's what you're into and you just want to film yourself and keep things as simple as possible, then this is the kind of drone that you want because it's designed for it. That's what it's made for. It's made to keep things simple and to basically just film you and make you look great. If you want something that's a bit of everything but not specifically good at anything particularly, then maybe this isn't the drone for you because it doesn't do everything amazingly well. But active tracking, chasing you, filming you automatically, this is a brilliant choice. So I hope this helped you decide or understand who this drone's for, what it does so well. Hope you enjoyed the video. As usual, please remember to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Until next time, happy flying, stay safe, and see you soon.